welcome one and all to yet another episode of Bumping Into Walls here on CJSW 90.9 on that FM dial. Turn up your radio, turn up your smart speaker, drop whatever you're doing, and sit back and relax for the next half hour and listen to myself and Anthony. Anthony, once again, how are you?
Hey, well, for those who just showed up and don't know what Bumping Into Walls is, we are a show dealing with the vision loss community, their issues, and their lives. So sit back and just check us out. And by the way, we also have an app over at cjsw.com. Well, actually, it's on your iPhone or your other phone that you have. And it's a great app. So, yeah, there's lots of ways to check us out. And we're all, so what's up today, Dave?
Well, not much. Can you believe it? Here we are, summertime again. And enjoying.
It's going to get hot again, they say.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see about that.
We'll see with Calgary. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. That's what they say.
They truly say that. But so what's, boy, I know I'm early thinking about this, but what's your plans for the summer? Do you even know?
Well, I'm probably going to go to camp this year because I hear rumors that the Alberta camp is happening this year. So I might do that. I might go to see my relatives up in Edmonton. Not really sure what else is going on. They have air conditioning, so it's awesome because at my house, we don't have it. So
no, well, for us, we usually end up going to Edmonton and they don't have air conditioning. And when it gets really hot, oh man, of course we do in our own home and you've been in our house and boy, we're spoiled.
You guys are, but it takes a lot of energy to keep that sucker moving.
Yeah, it's the costs I don't like, but that's all right. But hey, summertime is here. Is one of my favorite time of years. I like the green grass and all that some stuff. But
and the music festivals.
Oh, music festivals and street festivals and everything.
We got Blues Fest. We got Terminus. We've got the Reggae Fest possibly this year. It didn't happen last year. We've got Jazz Fest possibly this year. Lots of festivals. I mean, anything you can think of, there's probably a festival for it here in this town.
Well, I had a chance to check out the Studio Bell, a.k.a. the Music Center.
Oh.
And that is a really fun place. I got to play around on a few keyboards. But the only thing is with if you have no sight, I don't know. It's very interactive to an extent, although they keep a lot of stuff behind glass, so you can only touch a few items. You can't really touch them all. Your typical museum.
Well, yeah, but here's something that I don't think many people think of, and I never did until recently. If you go and ask somebody, they might let you back there. You never know, right? If you talk to the right person. I'm not saying it would work, because as a blind person, I mean, in some museums, they'll just say, here's a pair of specialized gloves or whatever. That doesn't always work. Some museums will have descriptive little telephones that you would listen to. But of course, in the Music Center, I don't think you'd need that. But you never know. I mean,
I don't know. I know over in Drumheller, I think they have stuff like that.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. If you're in a certain day, if you can check out your days, and they usually have a lot of concerts in there. Because right down the street is the King Edward Hotel. It used to be the King Eddie, which was the home of the blues here in Calgary. I mean, I saw some pretty big-name blues guys. I saw B.B. King in there one night. Albert Collins was roaming through. Yeah, I saw a lot of great guys in there. So just down the street from the Music Center there.
Matter of fact, I think really down the street from the Calgary Public Library as well.
Yeah. They're all down in that general neighborhood. Well, the one thing, if you're really looking for music, at least here and in any other city you're at, there's a lot of free concerts that happen, especially in summertime. So whatever city you're in, just type name of city, free concerts. Usually the cities will run. I know Lethbridge has them, Edmonton has them. You'll find a lot of that stuff. So you bring your own lawn chair, bring a blanket, bring some food to eat maybe because it's going to be out in a park somewhere. And, they have a band shell with us, over the top of the stage. And sometimes they have a marching band in there or a rock band or a cowboy band or whatever, right? Whatever it could be.
I believe the terminology is country music.
Yeah, that is correct.
And folks, in case you haven't figured out, we're talking music.
Yeah.
We never did mention that at the top of the show, because honestly, folks, sometimes you never know what you're going to get with us.
It's a mixed
Usually
bag.
we're pretty good on point.
It's a mixed bag today.
But yeah, we're calling it kind of a mixed bag sort of thing. And obviously, we're starting off with music. One of my favorite things is I'm a musician as well. And
Yeah.
you know what? I think I've mentioned in a previous episode, I know something about you. And I don't think we want to leave our listeners hanging too long on that one. As I think I may have mentioned that you were in a church choir. But there's something else. And this, by chance, I learned that you actually played the piano.
Yes, at 7 years old, I actually was in Edmonton, and because of this show, our music teacher, my old music teacher, my very first teacher, reached out to us, but we're still waiting for him to get back to me as far as what he wants to do, but it was really good catching up with him. He's in his 70s now, and he played in quite a few bands over the years, and he's taught, he's a teacher now, was a teacher before he retired, so he taught in the school system, and yeah, he was quite impressed that we were doing what we do, and so yeah, it was an interesting conversation, but yeah, I played piano, and then after my mom died around 14, I just lost the passion, unfortunately. But a lot of people think that every blind person can play music well. I can tell you, I know people that can play the radio, and that's as far as it goes.
Well, I guess that brings us into our next little thing, some misconceptions, if you will, in terms of blind people who are blind, totally, and or visually impaired.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you were telling me they're off the air that some folks think, oh, they're really good at the piano or they're really good at whatever. I've really never thought of that because I play the piano and the organ, so I got two instruments behind me, plus the low G whistle.
Hey.
And I have tried violin, so a few of them.
I tried drums over the years, but drums made a lot of noise, so I donated them many years later to my junior high at that point. But yes, I played drums as well, but I never took lessons. But, those are the kind of things that... one of the things that I always find intriguing is that people know Stevie Wonder, they know Ray Charles, they now know Jeff Healey, because Jeff Healey, if you're a blues rock guy, you're gonna know who he is. He actually, at one time before he passed away, he used to do, of all things, a jazz radio show at one of the Toronto campus stations. He would come in up the big stairs with his 78 player and a bunch of 78s. Every week he'd come in with all that stuff, all Braille labeled, his whole house, like he had this room just for 78s and records. That's how dedicated this guy was to jazz. I mean, he would go out and buy all this stuff. And, every week he'd come in. But if you just listened to him on the air, you would have no way of knowing he was blind.
Very interesting. No, I guess one wouldn't. I guess that's the wonderful thing about radio. You don't know.
No.
You really don't know. I've always enjoyed... So was it a challenge learning piano? And the thing is, maybe I'm thinking if I were to lose my sight tomorrow... by the way, we'll go into that later, but if I were to lose my sight tomorrow, could I still play the piano? And yes,
you
my
could.
answer would be yes.
Yes, you could. Because he explained to me when I talked to him, he said, for a 7-year-old, you had a very good understanding and conceptualization of the keyboard. He could say, find low G or middle C, and I was able to do that. So I didn't even realize that was a challenge, but he said a lot of sighted kids couldn't do it. So, having a good spatial orientation did help, I guess. So I was surprised at that. But yeah, we had a very good chat. But as I say, we're still waiting for him to come back to us. And he may not, but you never know. He might be listening. You never know. And that's the thing. He was doing something, I think, back then that most people weren't. Because I don't think a lot of people knew how to teach a blind person who couldn't read music. Now, some totally blind people use Braille music, and that's a whole deal unto itself, because you still have to memorize this stuff, because you cannot play and look at it. Well, you can, but you can only do one hand at a time. At least that's how I always thought of it. But the problem you've got is Braille music, it looks like, our Braille music looks like English Braille. So the symbols and letters that you are seeing also means something else in everyday Braille. So you can get really messed up. And I didn't really start to play with it until grade 10. And by that time, it just wasn't going to happen. I didn't have the time to really put into it and devote to it. But, my music teacher at the time thought it would be a really great idea, but it didn't fly. But unfortunately, Braille music now, or back then, you used to have to get it sent to you or in a book, and they were big because Braille takes about 2 pages of Braille to make 1 page of print. So you can imagine how big anything is in Braille. So I use it for simple things, but like now they have other types of technology which we discussed earlier, but maybe that's what some people are using. But not everyone can play an instrument. They might be able to play it, but just because they're blind doesn't mean they can play it well.
Well, like a Braille note or whatever you're thinking.
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
I'm wondering. I don't know. I mean, I have contacts that we could have asked, but unfortunately that didn't fly today.
Oh, well, that's all right. You know what? Maybe we can do a follow-up show. And you know what, folks? If you're just tuning in, you are listening to Bumping Into Walls here on CJSW 90.9 on that FM dial. And, I have a hard time reading music myself, even just being visually, having partial sight and the constant movement in my only eye. It's nystagmus. So it's very hard to focus on something. So I just like to not
People say we have a hard time focusing anyway, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, I got it. Sometimes we do. Boy.
Sometimes.
But, I have a hard time reading music. Like, I can read it. I'll do it if I have to, if I need to learn a certain piece. Other than that, that's it. I'll just play whatever. And you've heard me on the piano a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And in a few situations.
And sometimes you'll get folks, there was a time when blind people did 2 things. 1, they made baskets, or 2, they tuned pianos. Now, not every blind person has perfect pitch. I'm lucky enough to have it, but not every blind person has that, just like not every blind person has an interest or a real passion for music. I mean, not every blind person would want to do what we're doing. Otherwise, this place would be overloaded. We'd have 18 shows of it. So, that. But unfortunately, people get an idea in their head because they see 1 or 2 blind people on TV and they've never met a blind person before. And that's the first sometimes question that I get asked sometimes is, wow, you must be able to play music really well. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So it's just what people see. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what people see right now. Although that could be changing with technology and people's understanding of disability. Who knows, right?
It's very, it's very interesting. And I did not know that. In terms of that. A piano tuner would be, I think, a very hard job.
They have piano tuners. There's an organization in America that deals with it for the blind, and one in England. I don't think there's one here. I did some extensive research, and you know me, when it comes to research, if I can't find it, it ain't there. But I don't know if a young person would take that up. Maybe they would. But a lot of pianos now don't really need tuning because they're all electronic. So maybe that's a thing of the past.
True enough. I don't know. No, when I had an acoustic piano, I had a guy come in. I think he had a smartphone, and he was just tuning it with his smartphone. Whatever.
Hey, whatever works, right?
It was tunable. I know one guy's dad used to do it with a tuning fork.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it, actually. That's how you're supposed to do it, but
certainly with the invention of electronic pianos, you don't need to worry about that. You ever got to play on a Steinway?
Oh yeah.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I think that's one of my things. I should go into Steinway and Sons here in Calgary, and although especially if it's polished black there, you almost want to wear white gloves while playing.
Yeah, you don't want to pick up whatever stuff you could pick up on your fingers because that could get apparently quite messy. I don't know if this is your issue, but I know I've been to places and the piano hasn't been tuned. It usually happens in churches or public spaces, and boy, sometimes you're just thinking, this sounds so horrible, I want to run the other way, right? Not everyone has that that problem. I mean, as someone with perfect pitch, I'll notice if something's out of tune, guitar, piano, whatever. And if it's really bad, I want to run away. But
Oh, you and I have been to a certain place where that piano is exactly like that. I'm not going to
no,
mention their
No.
name, but you know where I'm talking about.
yeah,
And boy,
yeah.
I think you've heard me complain about that thing for years.
But you have to remember, a lot of times, with the way our weather is here in Calgary and probably in other places, every time the temperature changes, we have the same problem at my church. Our music director is forever getting the pianos tuned, because like even the organ, same thing. The fact is that temperature changes and a change in humidity can play a number on any musical instrument.
So do you think you'd ever take up the piano again? Or I don't know. Like,
I don't know.
even if you had a keyboard.
I don't know. It's something I've never thought of, but yeah, you never can tell. I mean, that's a good question, actually.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say. Would you take up if you had the chance to get lessons? Would you take it up?
I've taken a few lessons here and there, but you know what? I enjoy just creating my own.
Well, now with samplers and stuff, you could go to town with that. You could actually overlay all kinds of stuff. You could.
No, mine's not connected to a computer.
No, but I mean, now with all the great stuff that's out there with samplers and things like that, you could do all kinds of things if you had the right technology. And then when I was a kid, that stuff didn't exist, or it was just starting to exist. Because synthesizers were just coming into their own at that point. Because I was only 7, so that would have been 77.
Right.
So I mean, that's one of those things where you just never know. Would you, if you lost your sight, would you still keep playing music?
Oh, of course. I got a piano sitting at home that so yeah. No, I would. I would.
Right on.
It's one of those things I do enjoy. Though if I'm not out and about doing things, I'll sit down and play.
Sure, right on.
But obviously around spring, summer,
There's lots going on.
there's a lot going on if we're not busy playing cards on a Wednesday or whatever. So when I have the time, it's there.
Well, that's awesome, right? I know a friend of mine. He plays guitar, and he has he's actually in a choir for the blind out of Edmonton. It's actually for all disabilities, actually. But him and another lady, they sing together, and yeah, they're great. I've never actually heard them in person because I've never been up there long enough. But had we known ahead of time, I could have brought him on. But next time we'll bring him on and see what he has to say.
Well, see, that's interesting. There's a few things. Oh, well, I mean, some days it is what it is, folks.
That's right. I mean, why do you think people get the impression that every blind person can like be the next Stevie Wonder or the next Ray Charles? Why do you think that happens? Because those guys are really old anyway. So would you think that's an older generation stereotype, or do you think that younger people would think that? I mean,
I don't know. Do you ever get asked the same question that, oh, hey, how come you don't wear those dark sunglasses that you see?
Yeah, not very often, but I do get it. I get it usually from the most unusual places, but not as often as I used to, because Stevie Wonder's not as big a name, and Ray Charles passed away in 2000 and something, so he's not here. But I mean, for a lot of folks that are visually impaired or blind back in the 30s and 20s, a lot of blues guys, that's how they made their livings. If you go looking back in the old 78s, you'll find anything with the word blind in front of it, that means the gentleman or lady is actually blind. So if you go hunting around, then you could find some pretty neat stuff. And with streaming, you just never know what you're going to find.
Well, and that's another thing. I think CD art, it's not gone, but
No.
certainly with streaming available,
You have
that's
millions of
changed
songs at your disposal, so it opens lots of new doors, but it also makes music disposable too. I'm sure, if we talk to folks around here, they get so much music in here. I would not want the music director's job. She probably gets so overloaded that it's. But a lot of folks, if they are blind, they don't want to identify as such. I mean, I know of guys that are in bands, big name bands, that don't identify as blind, right? Jeff Healey did, but that's as a single artist, that's what he chose to do. So I mean, it all depends, like how comfortable someone is with their disability. I mean, would you, if you were an artist and you were going to go out there, Dave, would you identify yourself as a vision loss person?
Why not?
Okay, and you're
I
happy
would.
with who you are. That's great.
I don't care. I mean, I would say I don't care, but
You wouldn't use it as a tool, but you'd let people know.
I would let people. Well, I mean, that's obviously what the weight cane is for. That is a symbol of identifying as someone with vision loss.
Yep.
It's not just necessarily blind anymore, or
No.
having no sight.
No, and then there, of course, the other thing that I find really intriguing, and I've never looked into this, but you know how musicians like to crank up their PAs so loud that your brain will explode? Well, I'm wondering how many blind people would have a serious challenge with that, because you've got to wear earplugs. And I'm thinking, wouldn't that be a challenge to try and hear what you need to hear around you? Just a thought. Something I've never thought of until like just now. And I'm like, well, I wonder how those
I
guys
don't know.
did
I
it.
thought of getting myself a noise canceling headphones.
Those are great on the bus if you're ever on a red arrow.
That's what
or
I was
something.
thinking. I joke with my wife Heather that this way I call them wife canceling headphones.
You're brave, buddy.
I know.
You're brave.
This way you put them on, it muffles most of the sound. So whatever she tells me, pardon me, what?
There's a lot of folks, disabled or not, that have actually done well for themselves as songwriters too, not just musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you never know. Maybe that theme you hear for your favorite soap might have been written by a blind person. It isn't, but you never know, right? You never can tell.
Maybe.
It isn't, because I researched it this morning. But
What?
yeah,
Really?
I did some homework. You know me. I am always looking for something.
So tell me something. Why were you researching something on soap music?
I was wondering how the heck it got produced. So,
Oh, you mean for the ones for okay.
yeah, I was wondering, do they produce it in a factory or what? But I mean, as a blind person, I knew a guy who was totally blind but couldn't read music well. So he had enough sight that he could read music, but he read it slowly. So if you're going to work in a studio or in a studio session, they would just hand you a bunch of paper and you'd have to figure it out in a hurry, right? So I wonder, how would a totally blind person do that kind of job? Because there's no way they could get, well, back in the day, there's no way they could get the content as fast as they needed it. Now maybe it's possible if you had like a braille display or something. I don't know anyone in the industry, so that's a good question. Do you have an answer for that one?
Haven't a clue.
Well, neither do I, but I mean, that's where, you know what? Maybe I have to do some homework, find ourselves a blind session musician. You never know. They must exist. Maybe they don't. Would you do something like that if you had the
I don't know.
skills?
With AI, you can almost.
You wouldn't need it anymore. Yeah,
I think that could be a past.
I think so.
Session musician, like.
I think so.
I know, like for soaps and stuff. There's and they always, and I know there's even in movies. There's always background music.
Yeah.
TV shows, I've always noticed there's some sort of like a little bit of a piano music to sort of set the mood or whatever.
Whatever
it's
it
sound
is.
effects. That's not necessarily
Well, that's right.
music anymore.
No, and like I said, being a blind musician, I wonder if that would be a benefit to you or not. If you were going to market yourself, if you marketed yourself that way, how would that set you apart from just a regular old musician? Like any disability, we can branch out to any disability. I mean, why do you think someone would do it?
Really? I don't know. I think it's up to the individual person.
It is. And a lot of times what happens sometimes is people will market them a way they're not comfortable being marketed. I mean, guys like Ray Charles didn't have a choice. But if someone had some sight, they may market themselves as just a regular, because they just want to know people to know their music. They may not want them to know what their disability is. And I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Well, I think nowadays, though, it's okay to be how you identify as blind or having vision loss or
I think it
whatever disability.
I think it is.
I don't think there's too much stigma behind that.
No, once Stevie Wonder calmed down a little bit and wasn't wearing those weird glasses, then yeah, I mean, a lot of folks do wear them, and it has to do with how comfortable they feel themselves, because people look at our eyes and go, oh, they look weird. I couldn't care less if my eyes look weird. They've been doing that for ever since I've been here. So, but not everyone is comfortable with that. And I just think, well, I'd lose the darn glasses, so let's not worry about it.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm glad. Oh, I think we were out and about one time. Yeah, no, I know of one person that has those glasses. I'm not going to mention any names,
No?
but I think you know who I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
That's only one person that I know that has those dark sunglasses, and someone mentioned me as a joke. Hey, you should get a pair of those. I'm like, oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
As for me, no, I wouldn't.
Like I said, it's an interesting situation that there's a lot of things that are open to people now. I mean, and some people. I have a friend in Ontario. He's in a band, and he just does it for fun. He's not making any money at it. They might get the occasional gig at a bar or whatever, and he just goes out and plays and has a great time. He's not looking for fame or fortune. So there's that kind of musician too, where you're just a weekend guy, weekend warrior, doing your thing, right? If something comes along, I'm sure he'd take it. But so there's all kinds of potential. I mean, it just depends what you want to do with your talent. I mean, some people do nothing with it. Some people, like me, get involved in choir. I mean, I was in a choir that was you had to an audition only choir. The Alberta Youth Choir. I made it twice, which is rare. I've never seen, there were some folks that made it 3 or 4 or 5 times. I think I made it 2 or 3 times before I aged out. So.
And then you decided to join a church choir.
Yeah, I've been there over 20 years now.
I guess you could also, there's other community choirs.
Oh, sure there are. Sure, we have one at church. Our conductor is involved with one. But the biggest problem I have is, and each person handles this differently, learning the material. That's the biggest problem for me. My brain is brain dead sometimes, and it also depends on what the conductor is going to do too. Sometimes the very visual guys will make your brain explode, but if you know what he or she is going to do and they don't change it up on you 5 minutes before you go out there, you're fine.
Well, that's another thing. So how obviously you have no sight. How do you know what the conductor's doing?
I don't. Basically, I know what he's doing by what the accompanist does.
Oh, okay.
And I also know we've practiced, and so he'll say, count in, so however many counts. Sometimes you're lucky enough to hear them counting, but not always, because they're waving their baton around, and that's what they do, right? So, but I rely on the folks around me in my section too.
You ever wondered what the baton was for?
I could think of a few things it would be good for.
Okay, I guess that's not appropriate
actually,
for radio.
No, I could actually. Oh. The reason the baton is there is it's a visual aid to let the choir know what section's going to sing when.
Oh, okay.
That way, they're not waving their hands around. They're waving this baton around, and it apparently is easier for people to see. That's what I've been told.
Well, see, it's interesting because I've seen at a church I used to go to, the conductor would just actually move his hands and then kind of point to whatever section.
That's right.
That he needs to come in. So I've seen that. I always thought it'd be kind of cool.
Well, they use it in orchestras because you can see the baton better in an orchestra setting. That's what I'm told. I don't know how true that is, but our conductor explained it to me one day, and I said, "Oh, that's why you use the baton." So he says, "Yeah." He said, "That's what happens." He says, Well, I remember one day I was in a kids choir, and one of the girls said to me, "Well, you know what? Can I borrow your baton so I can whack Joey because he's driving me nuts?" That's not what the batons are for, but
I always thought if they get frustrated, they'll break their favorite baton.
No, I don't think so. I've never seen that in 20 years. I've seen conductors pretty much let you know that they're torqued, but I've never seen them break one, at least.
Oh, for Pete's sake. So, well, you know what, folks? That does bring us to the end of the episode already.
Wow, goes by quick.
I know. Tell me about it. And we were talking about the topic of choice was obviously music with a little bit of our own flair, but I guess we stuck to music.
We did at this point.
At this point. So, hey, everyone, take care and stay tuned for another episode. I know we did talk about a bit about technology there back in, November, I believe.
Last year sometime.
Yeah, November last year. So
you might be another one.
So, I think, because I do have the Victor Reader Stream 3, which is it's all a buzz, and folks are talking about it. So who knows?
We may bring some. We might bring some people in. Who knows, man? Just keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, keep your eyes. I know. I'll be talking about that on a future show because I do have it, and it gives me some time to play around with it.
Right on.
So everyone, do take care, and thank you very much for listening. And folks, you were tuned in to Bumping Into Walls here on CJSW 90.9. You can now go back to whatever you were doing. Turn down the radio. Turn down the smart speaker. Maybe listen to your significant other if that's the case.
Listen to the next great music show coming up.
Exactly.
See you next month, everybody.